The Greater Centerville Historians organized in the year 2000. The purpose of the organization is to preserve the history of the Township of Centerville, Cleveland and surrounding area. Gerald O'Neill, Charlie Bauer, Richard Wiegand, and myself, Kathleen Sixel, were the founding members. In 1831, the territory south of Green Bay was sold to the U.S. government by the Native Americans who had title to the land. The consideration was the promise of a reservation in another state. The Township of Centerville was established in 1850. The township had a village called Centerville. The reason for the hamlet's original name of Centerville was, in the days of the Indians, there was a trail along Lake Michigan between Manitowoc and Sheboygan. This heavenly spot was exactly at the halfway mark, so the early white man gave it the name Centerville. In 1849, the village of Centerville was surveyed and laid out in lots and blocks. The village of Centerville was renamed Hika when the Postmaster General informed the village leaders that another Centerville was located in the state. When it became time for Centerville to be renamed, a judge in Manitowoc by the name of Albert Schmidt would take kids hiking. The judge said, "You can't call a town hiking, so why not make it Hika?" Thus, the village of Centerville became Hika. In the early years, Centerville had the vision of becoming a lake port. To encourage ships to dock there, 2 piers were built into Lake Michigan. Many German immigrants arrived by schooners, and the village began to grow. The village had a brick factory, stores, schools, a Lutheran and a Catholic church, mills, saloons, blacksmith shop, and a fire department, and a brewery. When the brewery was built, the settlement began to flourish. But when fire destroyed the brewery, the largest industry, there was no longer a need for the harbor facilities. So ended this chapter of the development of Hika. 2 miles west of Hika, another settlement known as St. Wendel began to grow. It had a Catholic church, a general store with a connected dance hall, and a post office was also located in the complex, a funeral parlor, and at one time a motel. With the clearing of the forest, tilling of the land began. This prompted the exporting of lumber and grains. The farmers of Centerville looked forward to the building of a railway since they had a serious problem transporting their products. In 1873, the Milwaukee, Lakeshore, and Western Railroad was built between the settlements of Hika and St. Wendel and was named Centerville Station. In 1880, Centerville Station was renamed Cleveland after President Grover Cleveland. Cleveland, at that point in time, owes its growth to the fact that the Township of Centerville was a rich farming community, and farmers for miles around would bring products to be shipped by rail or ship. The village of Cleveland had several grocery stores, a furniture store, a funeral parlor, several saloons, Lutheran church, hardware stores, several gas stations, newspaper, photographer studio, several car dealerships, cheese factory, several feed mills, livestock yard, and lumber yards. The biggest business was the Cleveland Co-op, which offered many types of services. With the failing of grain crops, the farmers began dairy farming. With the abundance of milk, another industry began, cheese and butter making. Local cheese factories dotted the countryside. One-room schools were usually built near the cheese factories, so children would have a ride to school when farmers brought their milk. In 1958, Hika, St. Wendel, and Cleveland incorporated into the village of Cleveland. In 1968, the Cleveland Elementary School was built. The Township of Centerville has seen many farming changes, but dairy farming is still the primary vocation. Today, Cleveland is known as the seat of Lakeshore Technical College, which offers an educational alternative to four-year colleges. An ancient proverb states, When an old person dies, a library burns to the ground. These words were the inspiration for organizing the Greater Centerville Historians. We hope to preserve as many memories as possible.
She's supposed to know, right?
We're going to be in here. Back where we usually are.
Hi, everybody. Wasn't that a great start to a great evening? I want to welcome everybody to the Greater Centerville Historians meeting. It is May 12, 2008. My name is Kathy Sixel, and I want to thank everyone for attending this special evening, especially all the historians who have made this possible by sharing your knowledge and photos. It has been an absolute pleasure working with President Mike Lancer and his staff, Fua Yang, Megan, I think all the girls are in the back right now, Tracy and Allison. Great job, girls, on the photos. Yeah, give them a nice round of applause. We want to thank the Cleveland State Bank for their donation. This donation made it possible for us to complete the introduction that you saw. And this introduction we will be putting on all the DVDs. We are rewriting all the material so that when somebody checks these DVDs out from the LTC library, they can see how Cleveland began, and it's the history of the village. And we want to thank Brian Hawkins and Ron Hasse, who helped us complete this part of it. And over the summer now, we will be working on the introductions. We also want to thank Linda McCabe for all her help in setting up a space in the library for us and for the Centerville Settlement Historical Society. Our newest member to LTC, or from LTC, is Karen O'Leary, and she has volunteered to come to our meetings and to scan all our photos because we will have better pictures, and the photos that are at the meeting that evening we will have, because I really don't always like to take the photos out because, you know, something could happen to them. Let's see once now. And this evening we are not going to be following our regular agenda. All questions will be asked after the program. And when you ask a question, please raise your hand so Mr. O'Meal can get over there. And always state full names and your name also. Our presenters this evening will be the current president, Mike Lancer, and past presidents, Fred Narodi and Dennis Ladwig. Gentlemen, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. When Kathy had stopped in and asked, you know, if we would be a part of or she stopped in one day and asked if I could stop by and give the history of LTC. I, you know, thought about that, and you know, I've been here about 20 years now, and I thought I have some things to offer, but really, you know, couldn't provide a really rich experience for you. So I called up Fred Narodi and Dennis Ladwig, who really were the people who went through all the work, you know, from moving the campus and bringing it out here. So I asked them if they'd be interested in participating in this, and they, you know, were very enthusiastic, and we had a lot of fun getting together. We had breakfast a couple times and went over who was going to do what and brought up old things, and many of those I know we're going to be sharing with you here, but there's actually some that we're not going to share with you here. Maybe some other time. But we broke it up a little bit and actually put a book together, you know, for Kathy as well, which we'll be giving you. But Fred was going to start out talking about the forming of Lakeshore Technical College, and Dennis was going to carry through to the referendum in the building, and I was going to finish up with LTC today. So again, we appreciate being invited to be here, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Narodi.
Mike is a little modest about telling you how long he was here. He said he was here about 20 years. I retired 20 years ago, and Mike, you were here then?
I was here then.
Now, I don't know how many of you were around in 1911. Anybody here that was around in 1911? I kind of doubt it. But anyway, that's when this system started. And they call it an industrial school. And it was a school primarily for kids that dropped out of high school, didn't go to high school at all. Probably many of them worked on farms, worked in businesses in the community. So the legislature decided they cannot stop their education at that time. So they passed a law in 1911 requiring these dropouts from school to go to school 1 day a week until they were about 16 years of age. Later they raised it to 18. So this system started on a small basis. In 1917, the federal government passed a bill called the Smithuse Act, and that made money available to these types of schools, industrial schools, to expand and hire teachers, put in programs. And from that time on, until 1963, the federal government passed legislation always making more money available to schools. Each time they did that, it seemed the name of this school changed. In 1912, when it started in Manitowoc and Sheboygan, it was called an industrial school. 1917, they changed the name to a vocational school. 1938, they changed the name to a vocational and adult school. In 1965, you know, they kept changing the name all the time. In 1965, they called it a vocational, technical, and adult school. And then from there, it went on to be called a technical institute. And in 1987, they changed the name to technical colleges. So all of these schools now, there are 16 in Wisconsin, are now called technical colleges. The big law passed by the federal government was in 1963, just before President Kennedy was killed. That law made substantial federal money available to schools like this to expand, to build new campuses, etc. Up in Wausau, they built their new campus, which they are still in today. It's expanded just like LTC, and they use federal money to do that. So then in 1965, the state legislature decided to pass a law called Chapter 292. And what that law did, it gave every taxpayer in the state of Wisconsin the privilege to pay property taxes to support a school. Before that time, what they call the vocational schools generally were supported only by the city in which the school was located. So here, city of Sheboygan taxpayers supported the vocational school there, Manitowoc, and Two Rivers. And the legislature said at that time when they passed Chapter 292, by July 1 of 1970, all areas of the state of Wisconsin will have to be in one of these. At that time they had 18 districts. They cut it down to 16. In February of 1967, I was the director of the Sheboygan Technical Institute. Our board, we worked with the county board chairman, and they passed a resolution saying, we want to be into this district, District 11, it was called. In June of 1967, in Manitowoc, they decided, hey, we're not going to just let Sheboygan run this district, we're going to get into it too. So they passed a resolution wanting to join District 11 along with Sheboygan. The Sheboygan board was not too happy with the resolution. They rejected it. And we worked pretty closely with the state director in Madison, telling them, do not accept that resolution from Manitowoc County, reject it. And one of the reasons was, in the resolution that Manitowoc County passed, they said, among other things, we want a new school to be built between Manitowoc and Two Rivers. The board in Sheboygan said, you cannot start a new board, have a new board coming in and telling them they have to build a new school between Manitowoc and Two Rivers. That's what the new board will decide to do once the district gets going. So the state board rejected that resolution as such, and Manitowoc County had to redo the resolution just saying, we want to join the district along with Sheboygan. So they did that. So this district then was started on July 1 of 1967. The two county board chairmen in Manitowoc and Sheboygan counties appointed the board members. For Manitowoc County, they appointed Allie Vitz. Anybody here knew Allie? Allie Vitz was the president of Merrill Aluminum in Manitowoc. Harold Brennan was selected. He was president of the Velders Lime and Stone. Joe Barta was a board member at the Two Rivers School, and he was selected. In Sheboygan County, Emmett Beach was kind of the president, vice president of plastic engineering. Robert Getch was a farmer in Glenbeulah, and Tony Zeitz was a linotype operator at the Sheboygan Press. Those 6 board members then had to select one board member who was a superintendent of schools, and that was Harold Paukert, the superintendent of schools at Kohler. So this district actually started then on July 1 of 1967. A couple of weeks later, the board selected me as the president. And there was a little controversy around it. The vote was 4-3. It was not unanimous. And I could probably tell you why it wasn't. The director at the Two Rivers School applied for the job. The director in Manitowoc, Joe Bachnick, did not apply for it. I applied for it, and about 5 other people. It came down to the 2 finalists being Connie Mayer, director at the Two Rivers School, and me, the director at the Sheboygan School. So when they had the vote, 3 members from Manitowoc County voted for Connie Mayer from Two Rivers. 4 members from Sheboygan County voted for Fred Nerodi. So I got the job. Now what happened back at that time, we got together then with staff, and Dennis, you'll remember back in those days, all the staff members from the Manitowoc and Two Rivers School, and we'd have a meeting here, sat over on this side. The Sheboygan staff members sat on that side. So it was a challenge to get the people to work together. But it was a challenge that I accepted and the board members accepted. And we knew that we had to do better than the 2 counties were doing in trying to work together. Manitowoc County and Sheboygan County, had they gotten together, could have built a bigger airport than they have now, rather than each one having their own. Sheboygan has theirs, Manitowoc had theirs. They could have probably built one airport where? Right here in Cleveland. The university centers probably could have gotten together and had one big university center, but no, Sheboygan had one and Manitowoc had one. This board decided it was not going to work like that. We are now a board representing both counties. And in February of 1967, the board made a decision on their long-range plan, and they said, we're only going to have one technical school, one comprehensive campus. They didn't say where it was going to be. They didn't know yet, but they said there will only be one. We're not going to keep running the school in Manitowoc. We're not going to keep running the school in Sheboygan. Because actually, they couldn't afford to run two major schools having the same programs, the same type of staff, same facilities. They said we only need one. A couple months later, they passed a resolution right here in Cleveland that they were going to build that technical campus right here in the village of Cleveland. So they took options on 3 parcels of property. This one, the Alma Hetzel property. They also had an option on a property down along the shore of Lake Michigan. I forgot the name of the property. And they also had a third option on a property where they have all these Christmas trees. The board decided this was the campus, the place where they wanted to build this campus. They were able to get water and sewer right across the highway on the old 141 from the village of Cleveland. It was in proximity to the highway. I don't think the interstate was completed yet at that time. So the Hetzel property was selected. And then back about a couple of months after that, the board had another meeting here in Cleveland in the elementary school. And they announced at that time that the school would be built here on this property. And they took remarks from the people at the public hearing. Following the public hearing, the board passed a resolution saying they were going to bond for $4.5 million building a new campus on this Hetzel property in Cleveland. And what happened after that, Dennis is going to tell you about it. A little while in September, here we get a petition requesting a referendum, 1,500 signatures. So before the board could build a new campus or do anything, a referendum was held. And Dennis is going to tell you some of the things about that.
Okay, thank you, Fred. Excuse me. I had the privilege and opportunity to work for the district for 40-some years. You know, I started out, I want to thank this young man next to me, because he hired me in 1964 as a teacher with the Sheboygan Vocational Technical and Adult School. And then I became an administrator for the Lakeshore VTA School and LTI and LTC. In return, I paid back the favor because I recruited and hired Dr. Lancer I think it was 22 years ago. Right? May even be 23. So I feel real good about that. Fred mentioned these dates in 1968 and about the single comprehensive center. And when this law was passed, there was 4 criteria to be a comprehensive technical institute. And they were, you should generate 760 to 780 full-time students. The area should have at least 3,000 high school graduates, population of 187,500 people, and have a minimum of equalized valuation of $450 million. We only met the 4th one. We didn't meet the first 3. And there were a lot of people in Madison that were hoping that we wouldn't be a comprehensive district. And when you look back at the vision of the board and Mr. Narodi and others of us on the staff, we realized what an economic impact having a comprehensive technical college, as we see today, has not only on the village of Cleveland, but also on Manitowoc County, Sheboygan County, and the whole area, because we did a study about that at one time. And of course, Fred nicely mentioned it, but I'll call it politics. You know, we had schools in Two Rivers, and it was in the 2nd floor of the City Hall, 2nd or 3rd floor, and we had the Manitowoc, which was a school actually built for a trade school or vocational school. And we were in Sheboygan, we were in an abandoned high school that the Sheboygan Public Schools nicely gave us the bats in the bell tower and the facilities to operate the school. So we realized very soon that if we wanted to be one of these comprehensive technical schools, we had to improve ourselves. And so the board met, and of course each community wanted that school, and plus a few others. And your handout, really was, we're going to continue present operations in both schools. We're going to develop a major facility in Manitowoc with a supporting facility in Sheboygan. Remember this vote now, 3 and 3, and this one member. It's a wonderful person named Harold Palker. Develop a major facility in Sheboygan with a supporting facility in Manitowoc. Well, that wasn't going to go either. There was a city manager at that time by the name of Jim Perkins. I don't know if you remember him. He used to come to all the board meetings. We had him at night, late at night, but he still would show up. And Mr. Vitz was chairman of the board. Mr. Vitz was a very stern person. I can remember one night, late into the evening, it really got into a really heated argument, in terms of it. But everybody was buying for this comprehensive technical institute. So, the location, all of us wanted and saw the vision of having a comprehensive facility. And when the Cleveland facility was selected, there were other facilities. I remember we had an attorney on the board at that time, a great attorney by the name of Victor Miller of St. Asians, and many of you remember that name. Well, he had some thought or some discussion about, the prep school facility over at St. Asians, but there was a lot of things going on in this community, in this area. Interstate 43 was really key because of access, in terms of going north and south and the roads. We as a staff started early on in the 70s going out and talking about this opportunity. We went where anybody would invite us. Service clubs, auxiliaries, gun clubs, you name it, common councils, county boards, and we had up, transparencies in those days. We didn't have PowerPoint or all that stuff, and we would go out, and sometimes we were greeted warmly, and sometimes we were not greeted very well because as taxpayers, the people really didn't want to pay any more taxes than they were. I can remember one meeting in the basement of the old Cleveland State Bank. And this board that we had really struggled with that decision. Their heads were down and the vote was taken, and sure enough it was passed, and then came that petition. Came from Sheboygan County, actually started. And when that came in, we knew we had some work. That was in September when that petition came in. So we just kept on going out and revisiting places and trying to discuss the benefits of having a comprehensive technical institute at that time, because it was really important for developing the workforce in the community. And certain people were, looking at that. And another thing that happened at that particular time, Fred mentioned the county boards. We actually met on the Hetzel site one day, and two buses came, one from Sheboygan, one from Manitowoc, and the Sheboygan was on this side of the river, and the Manitowoc County Board, it was like the Civil War, huh? Back and forth, kind of staring at each other. And shortly thereafter, we went to Stagey's and had some beer and drinks and chicken. And we took care of that in terms of, and we purchased this site for $75,000. I think we had 5 years to pay it off. And most of you that knew Emma Hetzel, she was a wonderful lady. We kind of embraced her and helped her with a number of things in her life. And when that referendum came up, it was held on November 2nd, I believe, in 1971. One thing we had going for us, that was the first year that 18-year-olds could vote. And we won that referendum by 1,000 votes. And I'm sure the impact of the 18-year-olds had something to do with it, because it was an emotional decision, because everybody wanted that school in their community, and Cleveland, you got it because of where you were and the geographical area. And next came the selection of the architects. Guess what? There were 3 members from Manitowoc that went Bray Architectural Firm because Larry Bray was from Valders. And there were 3 that went Stubenrock Architectural Firm because they were from Sheboygan. And they couldn't agree. And when Fred mentioned Harold Palker, at that time, you know, board members could smoke in the boardroom, and everybody smoked cigars. Not us, you know, we were just hired help. And we had to put up with that blue smoke. And Mr. Palker got up, and when they couldn't reach a decision on the architectural firm, he walked around that boardroom table. We were in a rented facility in Sheboygan, and he was like a mediator. He's a wonderful, wonderful person. So guess what? We formed a joint venture. 2 architectural firms. Bray Architectural, Stubenrock. They had to find a separate office and hire separate staff. And when you look back at the quality of this facility in terms of what the architects did, and when you look at this facility today and how well it was constructed, we're fortunate that we had 2 competing firms that had the vision and the knowledge of being able to say, we're going to do a wonderful job with $4.5 million. I can remember when the bids were opened in this room, and it was we came underneath the price of it. Groundbreaking in 1972, for completion in 1974. But we had another challenge. We had to move from that second floor in Two Rivers City Hall and Manitowoc and Sheboygan to this facility. And we had equipment that we decided to take here. We had equipment that we didn't want to take, and we wanted to leave it there. And because those facilities in Manitowoc and Sheboygan were owned by the city, and we had to pay them. We had to do an inventory of this, and we had to pay them some money on the value of the inventory. And we had some wonderful computer people, and those of us that worked with them that could do that. But that was a big job. We had auctions in Manitowoc and Sheboygan that summer, selling equipment. It was a real steal. It's like a gigantic garage sale. And we obviously bought a lot of new things, new equipment, but we were very frugal, and we placed like equipment in the machine shop. We had drawings where every piece of equipment was going to go when it came down. It was tagged and marked. We had boxes and boxes, and they were yellow boxes, red boxes, and green boxes from each of the 3 schools and where they were going to go. And so the staff really had a tremendous challenge ahead of them. Of course, we had our other jobs to keep the college, keep the school running. Same time we were doing all this. So we worked 24/7 for many years. And I can remember when we got everything in, and those of us that were there really involved, we were so proud. And I remember when the staffs came down before the start of school in 1974, and as Fred mentioned, they didn't really know each other. They didn't really want to be there because remember, they had to drive now from Two Rivers to Cleveland, Manitowoc to Cleveland, and Sheboygan to Cleveland. We couldn't even agree on when they were going to get paid because Two Rivers got paid every 26 payments. Manitowoc was twice a month, and Sheboygan was once a month. So we had to mediate that, and we ended up paying them twice a month. I think you're still doing that, Mike. I hope so. So when the staff came down there, that you know, we had to keep on going with the message. You know, the students are our most important customer, and we had to get it together as a one big happy family, and it took some time. So we started school in the fall of 1974, and when I want to thank this group here in Centerville, because when I went through the booklet, as Mike had these breakfast meetings, you know, 40 years is a major part of my work life. I'm still working at 68, believe it or not, for a private company, Great Lakes Staffing, but you know, 40 years is a long time to be at one place, and to have the opportunity to go from the Sheboygan Vocational Technical and Adult School and to get involved in building a comprehensive campus and seeing it grow it's really an important part of my life, and I want to thank you people here that for being who you are and taking time to remember the past, and also when Mike talks, he's going to talk about the present and the future, because this is a wonderful organization. We provide good things for lots of people in this community, young people, older people, and even old duffers like myself. And when you see that what it was and how it grew, and we have to thank all of us and all of you, the taxpayers, for that and the vision of a number of people. And I go back to the original board and those meetings, those long nights, and we're not going to tell all the stories. We have to have a few drinks to do that, but they worked hard and they played hard. But they were wonderful, dedicated people. And I have one more story, and I'm going to turn it over to Mike. I remember when the first female came on the board. You know, they were all. This is a men's club, you know, at the time, and that was Myrtle Fellman Engineering. And I remember the board chair, Jerry, reminded me that he took Myrtle outside of the boardroom. Now listen, Myrtle, this is how things go around here, you know, you're a woman, you know, and we make the decisions around here. And Myrtle, you know, she was a perfect first female board member because she could handle anything, and she became a favorite, you know, of the board, because she eventually became the board chair, and you know, board members changed and the whole thing. But it was really great to go through the history. So to the staff, thank you very much for digging out the notes and all that things. So Mike, I know you're ready, and you got 20 minutes now.
Sure.
So we didn't take up all your time, you know. I don't think we gave you a speech either. Fred gave or mine.
Before Mike starts, let me just tell you a little about the referendum. We convinced the board to have it on a special election. And it was our feeling that if that referendum had been on a general election, there would be more people going in to vote, and a lot of them would be voting no. It was popular at that time to vote no in referendums. So it was held as a special referendum. That's all there was to vote for. You people from Centerville can be quite proud of the fact that 82% of your voters voted yes. Your vote was 135 yes, and only 29 no. Now, Village of Cleveland even outdid you. The Village of Cleveland voted 257 yes and only 19 no. So they had a vote of 93% in favor. The cities of Manitowoc, Two Rivers, and Sheboygan came out in favor, not by much, but the yes outvoted the no. Now the people that voted no were usually the areas that were farthest from Cleveland. The farther away you got from Cleveland, like Belgium, Lake, Michigan, and then the towns, and farther away, the more people voted no. But you people right here in Centerville and Cleveland were the ones that really put it over. And one of the reasons was because the school was located right here. Part of the problems also were that in this District 11 originally, Ozaukee County was to be a part of the district. Ozaukee County did not want to be in any district. They didn't want to pay taxes to support a school like this. They said vocational schools are for dropouts. A vocational school is for somebody else's kid, not mine. My kids go to college and the university. So Ozaukee County said, we don't want to be a part of any district. The state board said, you will be in a district. Which one do you want to be in? They voted to go in Milwaukee. What did they do then? As soon as they got in the Milwaukee district, they brought a lawsuit against the state saying it was illegal to make them go in a district. So the start of this whole system was pretty complex. If we had lost the referendum, it was our feeling that this district would be gone. Originally, the state wanted, they had settled for 15, they wanted only 15 districts. They started out with 18 districts. They cut 2 districts out and consolidated and got down to 16 districts. If we had lost the referendum, it was my feeling that Manitowoc and Two Rivers would have been put part of Northeast Wisconsin District in Green Bay. The western part of Manitowoc County probably would have gone to Fox Valley Technical School. The western part of Sheboygan County would have gone to Moraine Park Technical Institute, and Sheboygan and Belgium, Oostburg, Two Rivers probably would have been attached to the Milwaukee district. So the district would have been gone had we lost the referendum. But we won the referendum, and thanks a lot to you people right here in Centerville and Cleveland.
You know, it's interesting, I grew up in, Zaki County, in Washington, But after I got this job, my mom actually was the one who told me that, at one time there was discussion about Port Washington, being in the Lakeshore District, and then she went on to tell me that one of her cousins was one of the ones that was leading the charge to put it in Milwaukee. So, but she's not alive anymore, and, not anything to do with that decision. So, that was kind of interesting. The other thing that Dennis mentioned, at the time, they borrowed $4.5 million, for this whole bill, for the whole campus and everything. And next week at our board meeting, we're going to be actually proposing to the board to borrow $4.3 million, which is part of our regular borrowing, just to keep us in equipment and remodel the facilities and upgrade them. So you can see over those 36 years, how much things have changed. When you look at where we're going, where we're at now, and where we're going, and when you look at our mission, it's really simply to to prepare a workforce. We look at the jobs, we look at the employers, and really structure our programs to meet those needs. When you look at the areas that we serve, you can break them down into 4 areas. One is career preparation. Now, we have over 50 programs that are geared towards training people for careers. They're associate degrees, technical diplomas, technical certificates. In addition to that, we have 10 apprenticeship programs. We also, another area is our basic skills. We prepare students to earn their GED or HSED diplomas, and this year we're estimating we're gonna award 115 GED, HSED diplomas to people who didn't graduate from high school. And I was looking down our list of the high schools that we serve. There's about 16 of us, and we do 115, and that might even be a little low from what we've done in prior years. That puts us about 8th, of the area high schools in the area as far as the number of graduates on an annual basis. We also do quite a bit of training with, English language learners, people coming to the United States, moving to the area where English is their second language, and we help them, get the language skills so they can go on and gain the other skills needed to work in the area. Third area of business for LTC is our corporate training, the customized labor training. A lot of times the programs that we offer right off the shelf aren't going to meet the need, and so we customize them to meet the need, for local employers. Actually, one program in particular I was talking about with some gentlemen here is we're starting up this fall a manufacturing management program for a Kohler company that's going to be offered on site. It's similar to some of the programs we're offering, but we needed to make some changes to meet Kohler's specific need. And then the 4th area is personal and professional enrichment classes. Classes that people take, from a wide variety. It could be basic computer training. It could be real estate training, insurance training. Even could be more on the hobby side, and we do some of those. We have, in addition to the Cleveland campus, we have the 2 outreach centers. We didn't completely move out of Manitowoc and Sheboygan. We are a big part of the job centers in Manitowoc and Sheboygan, and we actually have established over the last few years outreach centers in Kiel, Mishicot, Plymouth, Random Lake, Reedsville, and the Two Rivers High Schools. So one of the things is Dennis mentioned, Cleveland's strategically located up and down I-43, and when Fred mentioned, the people who didn't vote were the people in the outlying districts. Those are the people we're trying to show that, you're part of LTC too. And we did that to be the first step onto our campus and to show them that we're not so far away. Our largest programs now by enrollment are nursing programs, and under that umbrella we have nursing assistant, practical nursing, and associate degree. Also our pharmacy technician program. And that program is unique in the sense that we deliver the instruction from LTC, but we actually, the people receiving it are all across the state of Wisconsin. And another program that's one of our larger ones is accounting, and finally supervisory management. One of the things I think that set LTC apart and allowed us to be competitive over the years, and this is a strategy that Fred and Dennis implemented, was focusing on some unique things. We're a comprehensive technical college, but being the size we are, it's important that we know what our niche is and we maximize that. We have unique programs that mean we're the only ones in the state that offer these programs. Emergency management, judicial reporting and broadcast captioning, nuclear technology, pharmacy technician, radiation safety, and our newest program that's going to start this fall, wind energy technology. So by us having unique programs that nobody else has, it brings in additional students to this campus and allows us actually to keep the campus viable. On an annual basis, we'll touch the lives of over 15,000 people. That's 1 in 13 residents in Manitowoc and Sheboygan County. And this past year, we had graduation on Saturday. Well, we're going to have close to 900 graduates when you add both our winter and our spring graduation. And if you add in the 115 GEDs and another 30 or so apprentices, we're getting close to 1,100 graduates, per year that we're giving a credential to. 88% of our students attend LTC part-time, and probably one of the bigger difference that you might notice if you're on campus here in '74 and now is the part-time nature and also the age of our students. Our average age is 31. And I don't know what it was back in '74, but I think it was a little bit younger. We had a basketball team and a bowling team and a golf team. And a lot of that had to do with the age of our students, and they were looking for those type of activities. And with us, with just the changes in work and life, and that we've seen our population grow older. Now, well, a couple of years ago when we had a big mural layoff, our average age was up probably closer to 34, but now it's coming back down. Interestingly enough, we are starting to see a rise again in the increase in high school age students. It's something I think Fred mentioned, and which is a battle, it's been a battle since 1967, is that when people say, well, the tech college is for somebody else's kids, it's for people who can't, and that's been something I know, Dennis and Fred are both, battled when they were in this job. But I do think there are some things happening that are changing that, that perception. When you look and you read some of the headlines of the needed, workforce, you see our responsiveness to that. Our relationships with the high schools is improving, and that's helping as well. But that is something that is a cultural thing, and I think it's improved probably since '74, but it's still not where it needs to be. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done in the local community, to change that. If you were looking at our student body and sitting in a typical classroom, you'd find people in their mid-20s or 30s that are out working and supporting themselves while attending college. You'd find other people that are married or even single moms that are balancing raising a family, with small children and work and their coursework. you'd find people returning to work after decades or actually returning to school after decades of working, and coming here lacking a little confidence, but once they get here and working with our staff, build the confidence so that they can be successful. You'd find people just want to have a better career. You know, they worked in a job and they realize that this is something that they wanted to do, and they want to set an example for their children. And you'll find what we're finding to be an increasing amount is people who went off and got a bachelor's degree and maybe worked or maybe didn't work, but find out it wasn't what they wanted, or they needed the technical skills here, you know, to get a job. So I think there's been quite a change, and I think the model of education, you know, has changed, you know, over the years as well, where it's not, you know, get out of high school, you either go to work or you go to a four-year college or a tech college. I think people are changing. People are working and going to school. People sometimes are taking a little bit longer to get their degrees, and they're taking advantage of the multiple agreements we have with both Lakeland and Silver Lake and other colleges to take the education that they've received here and to transfer on. You know, both Dennis and Fred mentioned, you know, how important what we do is to the local economy. And a couple of years ago, there was a study done by the Wisconsin Taxpayers Association, and they found that for every dollar that's invested in Wisconsin technical colleges, it generates $3 in new tax revenue because of the higher wages. You know, we think that's significant. More than 75% of the people that graduate from LTC stay here in the local area, and close to, actually it's over 97% of the employers are satisfied with their graduates. This past year, we trained, we had contracts with 150 businesses in Manitowoc and Sheboygan, training 6,700 of their workers. So we believe LTC is one of the things that fuels the local economy. One of the things actually that keeps us, I believe, on the cutting edge is the structure of the advisory committees. We have 37 local advisory committees that are made up of employers, made up of employees, they're made up of students, and they meet twice a year with our program faculty and our counselors and our deans, and they go through the curriculum, and they look at the curriculum and they say, is this what's still going on in the workplace? And if it's not, they make changes and they tweak it. That's really, I believe, you know, one of the strengths of the system. Another strength of the system is that the teachers that we hire here, and you heard some things about the challenges of bringing the faculty together, but the faculty that we hire are a little bit different than maybe some of the other faculty employed by other higher education institutions. Ours have to have work experience, and they have to have so many hours of it in order for them to, you know, to get a job. And then we give them the teaching skills, you know, after that. The other night, I mentioned this at a presentation earlier today, but we had a retirement banquet, and one of the faculty members who had worked here 30 years talked about how she agonized over her decision to, you know, come to work at LTC 30 years ago. And she made the decision, and at the banquet she said how she agonized equally as hard over her decision to leave. And I think that just demonstrates the quality and the dedication of the faculty and the staff that we have working at LTC. Just a couple things that we're looking forward in the future, and we're at a point right now where we're updating our strategic plan, and we have some additional plans we're putting out. I mentioned our wind energy technology program. We're also starting a hotel and hospitality management program as well. One of the things that we're looking at expanding, we opened it up this year, or started it with our flexible training arena, which some of you might remember the equine facility. We used to have an equine management program, and we actually upgraded that facility, renovated it into a 17,000 square foot training center for manufacturing. And you know, that was in response, a lot of response to Manitowoc Cranes and other employers who are in need of welders and industrial mechanics and sheet metal workers. And I know Jerry Beckling on our board was the business agent for the sheet metal workers over the years. And I would say that right now, our sheet metal training facility, you know, probably ranks right up there with one of the best in this state. So we're continuing to expand what we call our Center for Manufacturing Excellence. And we knew we have some work to do in the trade industry building, and we could add 6,000 square feet right now to our machine tool area just to accommodate the new equipment that we need to bring in. One of the things that we're actually considering and looking at with staff and with the board is the development of an automotive center up just on the north side of campus, east of the wind turbine. Because of our need for space in the trade industry building, we have 2 automotive programs, auto collision and auto servicing, and we're looking at moving those programs out so that we can expand into industrial painting and into some of the additional machine tool and automation needs that are to meet those needs. So that's something that we're looking at this fall, and we're in the process of our budget. So one of the proposals that we have in there also on the north end of campus is to put together an emergency vehicle operation course and motorcycle safety training course. We're looking at doing this in phases, and so the first phase would be laying down, actually, doing the dirt work and then laying the asphalt. And I don't know how many bought gas today, but you probably paid close to $4 a gallon. And we're training, I think it's between 700 and 800 motorcycle riders a year. And with the price of gas, we're anticipating that to go up. Plus with the local need, to train firefighters and paramedics and police officers in the safe operation of their motor vehicles. That's going on right now with less than adequate parking lots around Sheboygan and Manitowoc County. So we're working both with the sheriffs and the police and the fire people in both counties to put a joint facility together so that we can do a better job, training on safe vehicle handling for those areas as well. We're fortunate to have a 9-member board that actually gets along pretty good, and they don't stand on opposite sides of the creek. And really fortunate with Cindy Hoon being on our board, and really I think as a village president, really it's good to have that position on our board because it helps us to remember where our home is. One of the things about the Tech College system boards is that they're made up. They're appointed boards by the county board chairs, and it's a system because it brings some diversity. We have to have employers, we have to have employees, we have to have school district administrators, we have to have elected officials, we have to have men, have to have women, and have to have minorities. And I think it's that diversity that really is one other thing that adds to the strength of our college. So we're getting at that 8:30 point, and I've been fortunate over the years, as Dennis mentioned. Dennis hired me. I started work. I think it was December 21st, 1986. And the reason I remember that's my sister's birthday. And so it's either the 21st or the 20th. I remember that. I don't always remember the birthday. And Fred was the president at the time, and we had some connections actually, which we found out later because Fred grew up in Grafton and had some friends that I knew of as well. So I just been real fortunate to follow Fred and follow Dennis in this position because to take the first step or to take the second step, you always have to take the first. And Fred took the first and Dennis took the second, and I'm just fortunate enough to be in a position to help this organization take the third. So Kathy, we want to thank you for inviting us to be a part of your program and look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
I just have to say something. This man is like all over the place. I mean, I came in to get my CNA testing or my results on the computer, and I didn't know where it was, and he's so nice about it. And then, today I didn't know where the bubbler was, and he's like, oh, right down here, and he just pops out of the woodwork. He's just, every time I come into the building, he's there. He's there at night. He's there during the day. This man really, he's a real asset to this LTC, and I think he's just excellent. He goes way out of his way. He's always kind. He didn't know who I was. I mean, I could have been a student. Maybe I wasn't a student. Just really a kind person. So, and I speak very well of him.
I had a grandson that went here for computer technology. He did the 2-year course, and at the end of the 2 years, he transferred to Milwaukee School of Engineering for computer technology, and he didn't lose a credit. There were other schools that he had looked at, but he would have lost credit. but Milwaukee School of Engineering took him exactly the way he came from here. He's graduating now in 2 weeks or something like that.
Just on the Sheboygan, if you saw the Sheboygan Press Saturday, I highlighted actually 2 of our graduates that are enrolled here and at MSOE at the same time. So thank you for mentioning that. Good luck to your grandson.
What was your first graduating class?
And associate degree programs were approved at that time if the school had undergone a comprehensive evaluation. So there were graduates back, before the district was started. The first graduates here, of course, would have been in 1975.
Red?
I have a question for anyone on the panel. I was wondering about if there's a story behind the location of the I Road exit directly west of your campus here. Is there a story there at all, or that all happened by coincidence?
You were talking about the Interstate 43. I don't believe there was any politics in that decision.
Well, what came first then?
The interstate.
You were here first.
What? Yeah, we were here, but the interstate was being planned. I know that probably because the location of the school might have had something to do.
No story.
No, there was no story about that. That was out of our realm of possibility of you getting involved in. Thank you for asking.
Anybody else? Any questions?
I have a question from the videographer, Jerry O'Neill. I see the LTC generator turning in the breezes. What does it do?
Yeah, yeah, it generates electricity, we hope, but that's actually part of our renewable energy initiative, and it was put up, I believe, in 2004, and we, as I mentioned, we're starting wind energy technology program. It offsets about 5% of the college's electrical cost, and we have plans to put up 2 more wind turbines. One this summer, one next summer. We're working, through the village and through the state. They're similar size, different towers and different turbines. And we're teaching people how to repair, and so we need to give them different experiences in climbing towers and looking at different turbines. And that'll also add to our energy efficiency at the college as well.
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you.
To show how the district and the schools have grown, Dennis mentioned that he started in 1964 and Mike in 1986. I was hired at the Sheboygan School in February of 1952. Was hired as a teacher and head of the business department, and I got there and I had 1 student. And that student was a compulsory student. He had a job and he had to go to school 1 day a week. So that's the way the system has grown. The fellow who told me about this job, I moved from Madison to Sheboygan. I had a great job in Madison with the largest correspondence school in the world, the United States Armed Forces Institute. And the fellow who told me about the job in Milwaukee, in Sheboygan, came around to visit me one day. He said, "Well, Freddie, how do you like the job?" I said, "There's nothing to do here. There's no students." And and then he said, "Maybe that's why Jake hired you." I thought, hey, that may be right. So I started working, and I went up and down the streets, and we started getting students.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for all your hard, fun work. And this was a very educational and informative presentation. And I thank you so much for the nice relationship we have with LTC, and I hope it continues. And I also think we have to thank Cindy. I understand that you were the one that suggested renaming the room to the Cleveland room. So thank you so much. That's what I heard the rumor. The next meeting will be June 9th in the Wells Fargo room. And the presenter will be Alan Shurry from Kiel. His grandfather was Hugo Shurry, I think I got this right, who was the proprietor of the Union House Tavern, today known as Hika Bay Tavern, and also the history of the Shurry garages. And we want to also thank Charlie Bauer for his hard work, and I think he should stand up because he has a new wedding suit made for this evening.
If I give a minute here, this was an original that I had copied. I wanted to purchase the original. It belonged to C.W. Nelson. He was a partner with Plum Nelson out of Manitowoc. And it's a solid wool suit because he got married November 1st in 1902. But this is it. Thank you.
And I also want to thank you for the lovely gift. I will always cherish it. We will see you all on June 9th, and everyone is welcome to attend. And thank you again for attending this evening. And President Lancer, would you like to add anything?
I think I've said enough.
So, meeting adjourned then.
I think we should give him a big round of applause.